Hey folks, it is I with a sweat-stained cap today because we have been doing things in the backyard, getting ready for things to happen in the backyard and already having things happen in the backyard. But it is I, Jason Hyatt with Backyard Prepiversity, and you're on the CTW TV network. Today's show is going to be a whole lot of fun. If I can get rid of this little fuzziness on this outside of my body here. Ooh, nope, make the hat disappear. Don't make the hat disappear. Alright, got it. Alright. So, in the last week, things have really moved along. I'm going to go ahead and take the hat off. Anyway. Really moved along. Anyway, that's really bright. So there we go. We have chickens. Chickens. We have fish. We have a chicken coop. We have a brooding box. We have eggs in an incubator. We have 5 baby chicks in the brooding box. I'm going to be showing you all these pictures as we go through. Right now they're just all trying to download right now. So, gotta give it a minute. The method in which I was using did not work. So, that is why we are attempting a different method. Let's see. Okay, gotta make sure I go the right direction. Alright, so let's talk first. Proper setup of your yard, because it's rather important. I had grand plans to do this way and this the other way and set things up exactly how I wanted them, but one, the weather is not cooperating. It was hot and then it was cold and it killed off a lot of the plants that we started, so I've had to restart some seeds, which now is just hot, like super hot. So we've had to do things in a different order. And then this thing with my buddy came up, so we got our chickens a lot faster and we got our fish a lot faster. And well, it's the way life is, and that's why we do things the way we do them. So right now I have 16 eggs in the incubator cooking for 21 days, because that's how long it takes for chickens to hatch. 1 egg in there is going to take a few days more, or a couple days more. I have it marked with a giant 2 because it came 2 days after the other 15 were already put in the incubator, and we wanted the first egg that we picked up from our little mini farm to go in the incubator to say, they laid it, we hatched it, we own it from start to finish with this 1 egg. The other 15, actually all 16, are actually going to take off next week to my wife's school so she can teach the kids how to incubate eggs. But since this is spring break for her, we had to start them without the kids. I know, kind of sucks, but that's the way it is. So, but I've learned a few things this week too, which we'll get into. Let's see where we're at as far as my pictures downloading. Come on. Alright, let's... Alright, so I am going to share my screen in just uno momento. So give me 1 minute as I get this set up, and we're going to talk a little about... no, I don't need system audio. Just the window. Share. Boom. Alright. So, I want everybody to meet my rooster. I know, sounds kind of funny, but this is our rooster. His name is BBC. As you can see, but when he was born, he was solid black. He is a beautiful, beautiful rooster. He's just under a year old. I think he hatched, I gotta say, he hatched middle of April last year. Probably about 4 weeks after the last batch of puppies were born. But this is the cream de la crop right here. He's a bona fide little booger. Yeah. So, and there is the very first egg we ever got from our chickens. And I know I have a picture of all the chickens, and now you guys are seeing that. Hold up. All right. So we'll get back to that in 1 minute. So it is important to have a rooster in your flock, no matter if you plan on breeding your chickens or not. Because if there's a rooster, there is something there to protect your hens. And yes, roosters do more than just protect hens, but they're crazy little buggers and they will fight. So it's important. And the picture I put up for all of it is not yet loaded, so I need to get out of that. Okay, now they're loading. All right. But we started our 976 gallon pond dig 2 days ago. I did a live video for that when we started it. I haven't measured how wide or how long it is recently because it has kind of grown in some places and shrunk in others. But I will tell you right now, the shallow side, the shallow end deep side, or deep end, or the shallow, the side that's going to be the least weird, because I didn't have to build a bank around it, is 32 inches deep. All the red Georgia clay has been removed. It's down to the gray, loamy clay that's down there. And it's 32 inches deep right there. And then we have an 8-inch shelf, an 8-inch increase in depth, or decrease in depth, to a shelf on one side. And it's going to snake around under the waterfall so we can put our aquatic plants in there and maybe some other things, because I like turtles, so we're probably going to have some turtles, little baby turtles, because they're turtle enough for the turtle club. And I don't know, turtles are cool in my book. But then then my yard goes downhill, so we've had to build these ginormous banks of all this red Georgia clay. There's the only blessing of having red Georgia clay is it holds its shape, and you can pound it down and mold it, and it does really well. It won't wash out like, sand. So that's what we've been working on. And let me go to the pictures. I believe they have all. Yes, they have. All right, now that we are in it to win it, why is it not letting me start at the beginning here? Excuse me. Go here. Go here. That is Christmas. Y'all don't need to see Christmas. My computer has put things in weird places this time. All right. I guess y'all don't need to see the class that I wrote for firearms. All right, so let's get to the pond here. Chicken. All right. Back to the sharing of the screen. Yep, this is the way we're going to do it. We're going to do this. All right, so like I said, BBC. His name is BBC. It's Big Black Chuck, or Big Black Chicken. It's all y'all with dirty minds, get it out of there. Sometimes we call him Chuck. Sometimes we call him Idiot. Sometimes we just scream at him, "You're a stupid rooster, stop crowing" at 6 o'clock in the morning. But that's what he does. It's good for him. All right, so That's not the beginnings. Let me show you how I started this shindig. Oh, don't need to know that. Anyway, here's my fish that are going in this hole that we've dug. And there's my lovely wife with a baby goat. See, she likes goats. She loves the goats. Alright, well, this is going to be ridiculous and stupid as I go through, so. Well, there's the hole as of this morning when I started again. Well, you see this ginormous bank? You have a huge bank on the backside there. It's because the slope of the hill. The pond is at the top of the hill. And it drops 2.5 feet from the edge, the front edge you're looking at, to the back edge where the back of that berm is. So the berm on the right side is where I'm putting my waterfall. So when you're sitting in the pond right now, that berm is about 5 foot tall. It's not because that's where the water level is going to. It's got to cascade and create bubbles to keep your fish alive. And yep, there you go. I think I took a good picture of later on when we got it done. Well, you can see how the berm goes around. That's the general shape. It's kind of a kidney-shaped pond that goes around my fire pit and kind of down the hill. So that is where those are. And this is my temporary koi pond. There it is. Huh. That's what it looks like now. It's deep. Deep hole. 32 inches is pretty deep in Georgia for a hole dug in red Georgia clay with hand tools. So this is my pond as of right now. It's 150 gallons. It's got 20 koi and a tadpole that we rescued out of the pond we took these out of yesterday. You can see all the little plants that we have started in the background, and they're doing really well now. Some are just dead. So you have that. There you go. You can see fish in that picture. They're not all orange. Just the orange ones show up really well. There is a white tricolor, I call him. He's kind of cool. So, and this is just to show how the re-engineering of the poles that got blown apart happens. I needed to create a splash to induce oxygen into the 150 gallon tank beyond the pump. The pump moves 1,200 gallons of water an hour. But I needed to be able to make it splash. So I took 2 of those poles, that used to hold my awning up, my cover, that weren't bit and broken. I stuck them together, and I stuck the water hose in one end, and I went past the seam, and now it creates this wonderful cascade that oxygenates our fish. I don't know whether I like fish or not, just swimming around the pond. They do great things for food. They do great things for everything around it. They eat the mosquito larvae. But right now I'm a little bit contemptuous when it comes to the fish. You haven't missed the filtration yet. We'll get to the filtration in an uno momento. We will talk about that, because it is kind of neat. The whole system was given to me by my buddy because he needed to house his koi when he moves, but it's a lot. But right now, the fish are taking a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of effort beyond what I had planned to do this early on in my stage. So it's kind of a contemptuous relationship with the koi. Obviously, I like to go sit outside and listen to the water cascade, and I like watching the little orange darts fly around the little pond. But 30 loads of dirt and you look like this, there you go, later, you kind of have this relationship with the fish going, y'all are taking a lot of energy and a lot of work. However, I was able to pump some of the water out of the tank to water our plants that we have growing. So, win-win situation. They're getting fish poop, the fish are getting fish food, and they're working together. But the filtering system and pump for this pond is a Aqua Source bought at Lowe's. It moves 1,200 gallons. It has 4 bags of clay media. They're hardened clay media, and that just traps the bacteria. And then it goes through a green filter, which catches the fish solids, or it goes through a black filter, which catches fish solids. Then it goes through a green filter, which catches the smaller microns of fish solids and algae, and then it goes through a cotton filter on top, which filters out the rest of the algae and bacteria. That's bad. And then it just cycles the water. So it's going in the pump, down at the bottom of the pond, and then it goes out and then down that long, long tube, and then cascade back into the water to provide oxygen. Later on, I plan on increasing the flow a little bit. So plans with this pond would include a 50-gallon catch basin or spillway, as you would have it, on top of the waterfall. So in the pictures you can see my downspout for the gutter system off the house. That's going to come down. It's going to go into one 55-gallon drum that has filter media in the bottom. So it'll run down and go underneath. As it goes up, comes out of that pipe or out of that 55-gallon drum. It'll go through, filtered through the media, and it'll go through a hose, a laddered hose, into the next 55-gallon drum, and then that'll fill up and it'll go into the next 55-gallon drum. But that 55-gallon drum will load into our waterfall spillway, which I want to do a 50-gallon with its own pump, because that is how I'm going to replenish our water into the fish pond without having to use a water hose. Now, in times we have no rain, I'm going to have to add chlorinated water because that's what I have. But I'll have 150 gallons or so of water to be able to do that with, and try to regulate it out. But that pond that we're digging is 976 gallons of water at one time. And then you add that 50-gallon catch basin on it, or spillway to go into the waterfall. You're looking at, 1,026 gallons of water. We're not going to just keep koi in it. Like I said, I'd like to add a couple turtles just to look at them. They're really not going to do anything for our growing parameters, but hey, I like turtles. But research has told me I can put red ear sunfish in there, and I can put bluegill in there, and they won't bother the koi, and they'll help maintain snails. And I have no idea why my picture's going all weird, but they'll help maintain the snails and the slugs that come up into the pond, as well as eating all the mosquitoes and eating the gnats and all the other larvae that gets put in there. So theoretically at this point I'm planning on 3 different fish. I'll have the koi, which look real pretty, and then I'll have the red ear, which are shell crackers, which eat snails and shell and all, and then I'll have the bluegill in there, which will eat everything else. What I don't want is my big water birds. We have herons and water egrets and all this other stuff coming in and pooping in my pond and introducing other fish species I don't need, like largemouth bass, which seem to jump from pond to pond via egg very easily down here in Georgia. If I had a bigger pond, I wouldn't mind, but I really don't want them eating all my koi. It's one of those things. All right. Too close. Okay. We'll go back here. I think the rest of the pictures have finally decided to load up, and they have. Yay, pictures. All right, back to this. It's going to look funny for half a second. Back here. All right, so as I was saying, I have the one egg that we have hatched or had laid on our mini farm and our coop. Smart with a giant number 2. Can't say, well, it's giant in comparison to the size of the egg. Didn't want to make it too crazy because I don't want it to bleed through or cause problems. All of the other eggs, the other 15 eggs, came from my buddy Dean's house from the last lay that he had there. But this one from the lavender that says number 2 is the first one ever laid here on our mini farm by this girl in that spot. We don't name our chickens because eventually they'll go on the dinner table. So if everybody knows, we'll never eat the rooster because 1, they taste bad, 2, you have to have one. So the 3 hens we have do not have names. I have a hard time eating things with names. They're just the chickens. So I took this picture right here so you guys can see. This is the netting I was talking about. It's 2.4 inch square netting. This is a 50 by 50 net. Now we have over the coop itself and the entire area. It was work to put it up, to say the least. It was not very entertaining. It gets tangled easy. You get tangled in it easy. Everything you're trying to put it over gets tangled in it easy. So, but there you go. Another use of those poles from the original cover for my forging area and workshop area. Spanner poles. You know, I don't want to be getting tangled in the net every time I need to walk through the chickens. So those are set at 8 feet tall. Well, the front one is actually 12 feet tall. The one towards the back coop there is 8 feet tall. And no, I haven't got the greenhouse up yet because everything else seems to have had to have taken precedence at this time. But everything's there. We'll get it done. So there's the original 15 eggs in the incubator. And there is my chickies. My little baby chickies. There's 5 of them. Right now the biggest one in there, the one that was hatched first, I think he's back there in the corner. He is just at 20 days old. While the little one, the only yellow, purple, lavender one, there is a week, if that. So there is some spread in there. Oh, look, digging the hole again. I thought that was going to be something else. But the way we started the hole is this. I took my gas auger and I drilled holes. And then I shoveled it out. All right, there you go. You get a better look at my chickies. So those are the 5. So we're going to end up with 8 hens. Hopefully those are all hens. You never know until they get older. And this is the brooding box. So I wanted to show what a brooding box looks like. Some people do it differently. This one's in my garage. They're not old enough, they're not healthy enough, and they're not sturdy enough to be outside. So yes, they have a heat lamp on them all the time, and they stay in this wonderful box. So the guy in the cage there, you can see that's my Yona, doesn't eat them. You don't want your dogs eating your chickens. Now there's the other side. My buddy made it out of cedar. You can smell it. It's pretty cool. So, all right. Let's stop doing that and go ahead and close that. There we go. Alright, so back. Do you trim the wings on your chickens to prevent flying? No, I don't. My hens are too heavy to fly, and my rooster's too lazy to fly. And their chickens don't generally fly anyway. They can flap their wings and it helps them jump, and they go over my 6-foot fence, which I'll be talking about here in a minute, because no matter how much prevention you have to keep your chickens in, they will go annoy your neighbors. They will find the one hole that you thought was too small for a chicken to get out of. And they will go through it and then not figure out how to get back in. We gave some ducks to a buddy of mine. We got from my buddy and then gave them to my buddy because ducks are loud and annoying, and we live in a neighborhood and they smell bad, and I'm not a big fan. And I wasn't going to put ducks in my pond because the duck poop will hurt the fish. It's just a big mess. I didn't want to have a separate pond just for ducks. The eggs are good. I think they taste good. Some people think they're only good for baking and using for fertilizer, but the duck eggs do taste good. But we gave the ducks to a buddy of mine, and his first question is how do you keep them from flying? Well, certain ducks, like the Pekin duck, don't fly. Don't fly at all. And they're American breed of farm ducks that, one, are too fat to fly, and two, they don't have the ability to fly. Their wings are too short, and they don't have the flying, the right feathers. I can't remember what they're called. So, ducks you definitely have to trim. Geese, if you want them to stay, you're going to have to keep them there. And the 3 or 4 goose eggs I've had, they were pretty good, except for the ones upside the side of my head. Those weren't very good. But ducks, you'll not find them on my mini farm. My wife would like ducks when we have a larger piece of property, which we're always looking for. We don't really want to stay in Georgia either. I wanted to move to Montana, but I've got metal in my neck, metal in my head, and metal in my foot, and I'm probably not a good idea to go somewhere to get sub-zero constantly. So, just an idea of what we've been working on. And I've posted a lot of pictures on the Facebook page to share as we do things, and I kind of try to do some live videos as we do things. Sometimes I miss it, sometimes I forget about it, but hey, what can you do? I'm only human. I'm one person. Even though my wife was in the hole digging today, and she likes having the chickens. But let's talk about our story from yesterday. Yesterday was busy. Very, very, very busy. Wake up in the morning, go out and feed the chickens. Yay, chickens! Feed the barn cat, who's living underneath the chicken coop right now because, well, he's in a new place and he wants to hide from everybody, but his name's Bear and he's cool. Not Mr. Bear from the cooking show. Bear. The Bear. He's a cat. He's big, black, and fluffy, and he's cool as heck. But I'm getting off track again. Walk in, go, yes, I found an egg. Cool. So I mark it with a 2, we put it in an incubator. So morning started off outstanding. Then it still was outstanding. Went to my buddy's house, pick up some stuff, get the fish. I say get the fish, but mind you, that's a whole other story. That's a whole story by itself, which is intermixed. So the goal was to get the fish. But when we were there, the lady that was picking up his goats also showed up, and we had to say goodbye to some of the goats that, I had a kind of a personal relationship with some of them. Yes, I know they're goats. I got it. But they're cute and cuddly and awesome. But, so help catch the goats and 2 of them used to be mine, and they lived in my backyard. Now they live with somebody else, and one is pregnant. So Ellie Mae had... Yes, the goats have names. The goats all have names. They're dairy goats, so we try not to eat the dairy goats. They're just sinewy and rough and bony. But... So Ellie Mae and Jethro were Sandon Alpine crosses that we got from somebody else last year. Jethro was a wither, which means at a young age they castrated him, and he could not figure out if he wanted to squat to pee or stand up. But Ellie Mae was an amazing goat. I mean, we called her neck nuts. I'm sorry, we did. She had the waddles on her throat because Sandons do. But she was a good goat. And so watching her go to somebody's farm where I'm not going to go see, can't see her every time I go to visit, was a little rough for me. And then seeing Lucy and Luna, who I just had all those experiences with a few weeks ago, with Luna giving birth and losing the kids, and Lucy being pregnant at the time and wondering if she was going to drop, and Daisy giving birth and dealing with her baby little Nubian baby, and it was fun and entertaining. But every time I've gone to my buddy's house, all the goats are there, and it was it's hard for him, and it's way harder for him than it is for me. But it's still one of those things. You go and you see the goats. You're like, hey, I'm gonna go see the goats. You bring them lettuce and you bring them food when you go visit. Like the guardian dogs, I bring them meat every hunting season. They get all the legs, the leftover legs from the deer that I shoot, and well, it's a bit of an emotional time frame. But anyway, I'm off track. We catch the goats and we get them loaded up into the trailer, and then we walk up the hill to the 1,000-gallon pond in his backyard. Like, all right, we got a net. We're going to scoop these fish out of here, no problem. That started around noon. I got home somewhere just before 9 o'clock last night with the fish. And at first, we got 1 or 2. We got them in the bucket. Like, cool. We'll be a little bit slower, but we'll get them all. We ended up draining the entire pond. And as it drained, we were able to catch them. Scoop, scoop, scoop. And he had no idea how many were in there, because he started with 3. We caught 20. And a tadpole, because I had to have the tadpole. It's like this big. It's almost to a frog size. Had to have the tadpole. Tadpoles are awesome. And so are bullfrogs. Just saying. I'm sure my pond will have bullfrogs on it anyway, because anytime there's standing water in my yard, I end up with bullfrogs. But, at about 3 o'clock yesterday, our neighbors called and said, hey, your chickens are loose. And mind you, they are older, and they already knew we had chickens because Mr. BBC would do nothing but screech, cock-a-doodle-doodling all night long. Well, not all night, all morning long. But she said he doesn't mind because, they'll get some eggs. Not a big deal. But I went and checked every inch of that enclosure. Make sure nothing can get in and nothing can get out. I was wrong. I was drastically wrong. And if you guys could watch the video of it, which there is none, luckily, of what transpired after, velocipane in the rear end is chicken, found the smallest little hole in my fence and weaseled her big butt out of it, and proceeded to terrorize. I say terrorize because they wanted to weed eat and didn't want to hurt the chicken. My neighbors. In the hour it took us to corral bribe, get angry at, throw stuff at, chase. This she-devil hen of mine, you probably could have made an entire 2-hour movie out of the mistakes made. First thing, get a ginormous open loop fishing net. You know, the type you scoop the fish out of the water with? Get one of those if you're going to have chickens. I don't have one of those. I like to hand land my fish, so therefore I never bought a net. I am buying a net, but not for fishing, for chickening. 2, those boogers are fast. It doesn't matter how big this hen is, she's fast. And if you got woods behind your house, and once they get in it, your arms are going to look like this. You know, scratched up, beat up, scarred up. That's all from the briars that chicken was deciding to lay into, so I couldn't get to her. Now, chickens are not the smartest animal in the world. They can be trained to do some things, but they're not very smart. So we get her out of the woods and briars, and we got her corralled back to the hole she came out of. We're like, we scare her enough, she'll go right in. No. Remember that thing I said about flying? They can't fly. But if there is a wood surface that's vertical, and they can jump, and they can get their talons into it, they will flap their wings and claw their way up that 6-foot surface, and then land on top of your bird net. The bird net's great. It keeps red-tailed hawks out. Know that for a fact, because one already hit it. 2, but I can't even say 2. But they are meant to keep chickens in, so they bounce off of it, not chickens out. So chicken landing on top, talons, legs, chickens will strangle themselves and break their own necks if they're caught in a net. So now you have this, chicken in the middle of a net that has no openings on top of an 8-foot, pipe, and it's caught, and you're trying to figure out, how do I get this chicken untangled and back into the net from the middle? Luckily, my wife is awesome. So I can grab the chicken's legs from underneath, untangle the talons, get my hand through, which is why I went with a 2.4-inch net. And then, hand walk this chicken down the net till I can hand it to my wife, and then say, immediately flip the chicken upside down. Always. Grab the chicken's leg, flip it upside down. They go to sleep. Sometimes they fight you a bit, but eventually, once all the blood runs to their head, they stop moving. You can't hold a chicken that way indefinitely. It will die. But it does put them to sleep for a few minutes, so you can handle them to put them in a cage or put them back in the coop, back in the chicken area, get them out of a dog's mouth. Whatever needs to happen, and you need that chicken to stay still, hang them upside down. But it was at this moment that I realized that the chicken cone of death is definitely going to come in handy. Because the minute that hen does not lay an egg, she's going in it. She has caused me more grief than I care to think about. Do I actually know which one of the 2 chickens that look alike it is? Yes. She's the big one. Because I've got a hen that kind of looks like the rooster. You got the green iridescent. And then I got 2 chickens that have some weird fluffy stuff next to their head. But one's bigger than the other. But they were all born the same time the rooster was. They're all just under a year old, so I'm going to get 2 or 3 years out of them. So I'm going to get, each chicken's supposed to lay about 270 eggs a year. Just under 1 a day, Most days, the chicken's going to lay an egg. Right now I've got 2 chickens laying out of the 3. And I know that because I've had 3 eggs. 3. I have 2 right now, and I'm about to put in a cook pot because I want to know how my chickens' eggs taste. But the chickens are doing their job. They're in there, they're eating the bugs, they're eating the mites, and they're eating the grass, which is making me replan my garden. I'm going to have to do more chicken net over the garden to keep the chickens out of the garden because I want the food from the garden. I don't want the chickens eating the plants before they become food. But it's okay. That's why we're doing this show together. We're learning. Oh, what is the best mix of feed and grit name brand you recommend? Right now, I am using Do More Layers feed. It's pelleted, it's granulated, or pelleted, not granulated. Grit they're going to get from pecking the ground and eating the bugs. So more people use grit for chickens that are on concrete or in chicken houses. Mine will eventually be free range when they learn to stay away from the dogs. So right now they're eating dirt because they're eating bugs and they're eating everything else. And this is something I just found out about because I was asking my buddy today when I was talking to him. I will eventually start recycling the eggs into the chicken feed. But I was also planning on putting the eggshells in my compost. So we're about a 50-50 split on whether I'm going to just feed them to the chickens or I'm going to feed them to my plants. But they'll probably, even if I just feed them to the plants, the chickens will still find eggshells in with the plants. So, well, we'll get there. I haven't quite gotten to the thought process of all of that yet. All I know is I hope the eggs are delicious. They are a light blue color because they come from a lavender chicken. That's the type of chicken it is. It's a kind of a bantam chicken, I guess. It's got weird fluffy stuff on them. Or silky, but I do know there's some Rhode Island Red and some Wyandotte and some other stuff, mixed into it. They're mutt chickens, and obviously mutts make the best dogs most of the time, so mutt chickens must taste the best. We'll find out. I'm excited to eat my chickens. Oh. Used to raise earthworms and fed my chickens a treat from time to time. They loved it. I can tell you my garden area is surprisingly Japanese beetle grub free and surprisingly caterpillar free, and my fish really like earthworms. The 2 that we found while digging the hole today, which had their heads cut off because we're using shovels in this red Georgia clay, you really can't control where that shovel's going. I threw them into the fish, and my giant tricolor ate both of them because he's greedy. But he's pretty, so I guess it makes up for the greediness. So I'm hoping I can take some pictures once I get that water cleared up. Oh, that's what I want to talk about. The process of quickly adapting my highly chlorinated and fluoride-based water from the city water system to house the fish without putting them into shock. The filter that my buddy gave me, the filter and pump, was in this pond for a year. He cleaned it quite regularly, but I did not take the pump and clean it before putting it into the pond. That I have. I actually took the filters out and washed the filters and unclogged them all in the water the fish are currently in. Because I put clear, chlorinated, no algae, all that crap water in the tank to quickly get these fish acclimated. I introduced the same algae and the same bacteria and the same conditions they were in into the little 150-gallon pond they're in. I put the pump back together, put the filter back together, put it in there as quickly as I could to start getting it filtered out. That way they could breathe again. But what that did is it basically created a little mini petri dish that the fish were already used to. You know it's not the best way, but in an emergency it works. Dump your filter. So say you got a big pond in your yard, or a little pond in your yard, and it starts leaking. And you got to repair it, but you got to move your fish. The way to quickly make those fish acclimate to the water that you're going to have to put them in is to clean your filter in the water they're going in. Just swish it out. Get all that algae and black bacteria back in the water, put your pump back together, put it in there, put the fish in there. At least you're not introducing bacteria they're not used to, and you're going to filter it out and clean it out faster than the chlorine can kill it. And the bacteria and everything will negate the problems of having the chlorine and fluoride in your water as quickly as you can. Because usually you'll take that water and you'll fill the tank and you'll sit it out in the sun, and the sun will distill it to keep the chlorine and everything will off gas, and it'll be safe for your fish. But at 9 o'clock last night, I didn't have time to do all that, but the fish couldn't stay in a 5-gallon bucket. They would be dead in the morning. So in an emergency, the fastest way and best way to do it is to use only the bacteria they already have. They already know about. And it'll keep them from going into too bad a shock, and it'll keep the chlorine and fluoride from killing them. Are they the healthiest fish in the world right now? No, they're not. They were put under quite a bit of stress yesterday, getting chased around by the net. Quite a bit of stress with the water draining out from them. Quite a bit of stress from being improperly introduced to a new pond. But they're all alive. I had no floaters today, no floaters this morning. They're getting enough oxygen, and the chlorine and everything was taken care of. So I don't know. Dan the Man was great questions today. If you can catch rainwater in a barrel to help top off your water levels, especially during high temps and droughts, that can happen. Yes. That is actually part of the plan for the big giant pond, is 150 gallons worth of rainwater in 3 55-gallon drums. I can't say 150 gallons. Well, it'll still be 150 gallons because the media is not going to take up much volume. It's just going to filter out the sediment coming off my roof. So drain goes in, water has to go through the media, and then it siphons to the next, and then siphons to the next after it fills up. And then I don't know if I'm going to try to do a manual or a pneumatic non-powered siphon from my spillway or to my spillway. So like the water drops from the spillway, it automatically takes it out of the pump, or takes it out, or doing it a different way and just running a miniature like pump, 12 volt solar pump to pump water in. I'll probably try to do it both ways. 12 volt pump running off solar usually works better than trying to get Mother Nature to do what you want it to do. Because Mother Nature is fickle, electricity is not so much. And if you have solar, it's always there. I don't care if you live in Alaska, eventually you'll have access to solar power. Because the sun does come up 90% of the time. There's a few days of the year up there it doesn't. But it may not be, you can at least run a pump, but I don't think you're going to have koi fish in Alaska. Outside. Maybe in your house. Not outside. But, can do it off wind. 12 volt charges wind. But anyway, it's been a heck of a week. I've accomplished a lot without accomplishing really anything. No projects are done. I don't know if any projects will ever be done. Because every time I start a project and I get halfway through, I revise my project. Like my pond. It's like, I am just going to dig a hole. I'm going to be from this point to this point, and I know I'm going to have to build some berms. No big deal. But it's going to be one level across the bottom. No, No. So I was looking at it today going, man, I really want to put a little shelf in there so I can put some aquatic plants in. Hence the 8-inch higher ledge now than the bottom. That goes one spot. And then I want to make it decorative because who wants to look at an ugly pond that's underneath their kitchen window up by the house and next to their fire pit? I don't. So now I'm like, okay, so I want to put a rock ledge, I want to do this, and I want to do that, I want to be able to plant plants. So now I'm having to rethink some of the ways I'm putting dirt and where I'm putting things so I can actually make it look good. Which takes time, makes things slow. But now that I have a temporary pond holding the fish and it's not that much of a dire strait to get the pond done this week, because it's my wife's spring break. We going somewhere. We gotta have some fun. But it's not, I'm not going to try to kill myself now trying to get this done. I'm going to take my time and do it correctly so I only have to do it once. And if I dig the pond one level right now and I want to put ledges in later, it means taking the whole pond apart, pulling the liner out, putting more dirt back in, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do it now, make it look good, make it look pretty, run my pumps correctly, make sure I have my watershed done correctly, because the water from this pond is feeding into an overflow to a spillway to a pipe under the ground to the pond that's going in the greenhouse. That's still going to happen. It's just taking a different route. I wanted to do the 400-gallon pond first and get my aquaponics system going that way, but right now it's going a different way. A little bit. Because we have the fish, and the fish are important for aquaponics, so that's what we're doing. But right now, none of my projects are done. I don't have roosting box or nesting boxes in my chicken coop. There's a ton of hay on the ground in the coop, and they're making holes and they're laying eggs. I still want to convert some of my milk carts into roosting boxes or nesting boxes. That'll happen. It just happened faster than I thought it was going to. So my electric fence is working. That took a little bit of time this week. Patching all the points that dogs have chewed on since I turned it off. Like I said, we breed Dutch Shepherd puppies, and when they're puppies, they chew on things, and when they see this wire laying on the ground and it's not hot, they're going to chew on it. So then you're missing sections like this long, 5-6 feet long out of your fence. You got to add pieces in, put it all together, make sure everything's working. Clean your solar panel, because even my electric fence runs off solar. And then test it, which is always the most entertaining thing to do, is testing your electric fence when you don't have one of those little tester thingies. The best way to test an electric fence? Grab it. At least the best way for me. You can feel that tinge the first time. But my electric fence is big enough to wrap around, a few hundred feet. Can't even say a few hundred feet. It's that one is rated for 15 acres or 15 miles of fence line. So with my little 200 foot of fence line, it's quite strong. It doesn't pull its punches, but it is progressive, which I got asked a question on the Facebook page about an electric fence. I run the yellow wire, 1, so I can see it. 2, it's nylon, and I don't want to kill my dogs. And my solar panel controller for the electric fence is progressive. So you grab it, that first hit, it hurts, but it don't hurt too bad. The second hit hurts worse. That third hit, you're not holding on to the thing anymore. It'll progressively try to pump more juice through that line, through that short, until it can't anymore, until the battery's dead. So if you just sit on it, it can hold on for quite a while. it's just going to keep getting worse, or however high the capacitor runs through it. But it'll leave a welt on your hand after like 4 or 5 hits. And just a good tool to have, especially if you have livestock and dogs, like aggressive style dogs. My dogs aren't aggressive, but the breed is. They have a high prey or a small prey drive that will drive them to do just about anything to get to an animal. So the electric fence is there to protect your livestock. Either keep them in or keep stuff out of it. The electric fence is not inhumane. Yeah, it hurts, but it ain't gonna kill them. So you can run a metal fence if you're running bigger livestock, like the bigger straight wire electric fence. If you're running bigger livestock, I don't recommend it for chickens and ducks and goats. My buddy does it, had it at his house, but it was there when he got the house. And he had a lot more fence to run. He wasn't running a small bit. If I was on 10 acres and running the outside fence, I probably would run bare wire and as hot as a fence I can run, especially down south, and keep out the coyotes and the fox, or not really the fox, but keep out the coyotes and the bobcats if you can, and definitely keep the wild pigs out of your property. So electric fences are good to have, not bad. But anyway, next week, I'm not going to promise any more progress, but hopefully the lady I was talking to that does all aquaponics will be able to join us. She's super knowledgeable and has already told me more than once what I'm doing is the more elaborate way to do something, but it should work just fine. But she has some other ideas. So hopefully I can get her on next week. She's got to check her schedule. She does have classes to teach. But thanks for joining us tonight. Dan Meadows is coming up at 8 o'clock. And that's 2000 for those people like me that can't think in single digits anyway in civilian time. So thanks for joining us next week. Same time, same channel. Tomorrow we have Roundtable Ranch. Important discussions, important things, and important topics. Remember, it's your land, your survival. Y'all have a wonderful night.